Hi there, this is Alvin from Dr. Wealth. It is official. Microsoft has overtaken Apple to be the biggest company in the world by market cap. So now Microsoft is shy of that $3 trillion mark, whereas Apple actually have hit $3 trillion mark 2 times in 2023. Right? Somehow that lead has been overtaken by Microsoft, and the difference in the performance between their share prices started about say a month ago. So in the image you can see that Microsoft share price have gone up about 5% a month ago, whereas Apple has fell 6%, right? So that creates a difference of almost 11% performance difference between the two companies, and hence Microsoft was able to overtake Apple in this instance. So let's digest a little bit why did this happen. Is it warranted? And you will realize in the video I will focus a lot on Apple's issues because they do have quite a number of them at hand that they need to resolve, and then we might see better days ahead for Apple. So the very first thing that we saw in 2023 was the AI wave, and Microsoft was the best positioned company to benefit from this AI drive because of its big investment in OpenAI, which created the very popular ChatGPT that took the world by storm in 2023. So they had more than 50% stake in OpenAI, and there were more collaboration integrating ChatGPT functions into the Microsoft Office, into Bing, the Copilot function. They even want to introduce an AI button on the keyboard. So you can see how much Microsoft has capitalized on this AI movement in 2023. And in contrast, we also started to see that Alphabet or Google in particular was usually seen as the leader in AI, suddenly took a back seat, right? And they had to come out with the Bard ChatGPT equivalent, as well as its own Gemini, which is supposedly the more powerful version, more powerful AI version than ChatGPT itself. And there has been all this competition that between these two companies. But so Apple is nowhere to be seen in this instance because it is not even trying to create AI chatbot. It's not trying to develop any new tools in the AI realm, and it only has Siri, and Siri has been around for so many years. There's nothing new about it. So it seems like Apple is falling behind in this AI wave. And the worst thing is that recently they announced that they're going to shut down over 100-man team in San Diego, which was supposed to be the AI team. Right, so not all were being laid off. There were some that continue to join the rest of the team in Austin, Texas, to further develop some parts of AI. But you can see that Apple is not investing heavily in AI as opposed to the other companies. Even Meta Platforms has been voicing a lot of AI developments in the works. So Apple seems like they are nonchalant about it. I guess from a view in the investors' eyes is like this is not as good, right? Because AI is being hot so much so, and yet Apple is doing nothing about it. The other thing that Apple faces, another issue, is with its App Store. We know that App Store is a very powerful thing. People who use Apple devices, mobile devices, you will use App Stores to download the apps because there's no other ways for you to get the app onto the iOS platform unless you use the App Store. And not only that, Apple App Store charge about 30% on all the revenues that's collected by all the app developers. So it's almost like a toll gate, like a gatekeeper. Anybody who pay money through the apps would have to pay Apple that 30%. Of course, there can be some discount here and there for certain categories, but it charges as much as 30%. So it is actually quite taxing for those app developers because they will have to take a lot less compared to if they have the customer directly. But Apple, because of its position, is able to make use of that because Apple products are used by millions and billions of people, and hence they had that power to control, right? Because they bring the customers to the app developers. Okay, so the thing about this issue is that Epic Games, which is one of the app developer famous for Fortnite, is a multiplayer game, and they were having this lawsuit with Apple for many years, probably about close to 4 years, and they sue Apple for the antitrust kind of behavior because they are not allowed to get the revenue without paying Apple that 30%, right? So Apple doesn't allow any apps to show an external link to collect the payment outside its ecosystem. Hence, Epic felt it's very unfair and they want to sue Apple in this instance. So, of course, both sides try to fight their case, and the case has dragged on. And the latest thing is that now the court seems to favor the case where Apple needs to allow the third-party links to be displayed so that the payments can be collected outside of Apple, and Apple cannot have the exclusive rights to take that 30% of the revenue made by these app developers. So I think that is one end of the things where Apple power or Apple's walled garden is starting to crumble a little bit now that these external links are allowed. Okay, but the US court didn't allow Epic Games to have that side loading, okay, which means it's like Android platform, right? For Android phones you can actually download outside of the Play Store by downloading APK files, but Apple is so-called won that in the US court, right? Because they say that, okay, this is not allowed. So side loading is not allowed in the US. That said, in Europe, this is another case, okay? Side loading has to be allowed in March this year. Of course, Apple is appealing. We don't know the final outcome. But if this goes on, which means Apple will need to have something equivalent to Android's APK file that they can download outside of Apple's App Store onto their iOS devices. Okay, so this is probably also another big thing that might be happening. So all in all, I think these two instances is about trying to kill off that App Store's monopoly. And I think it won't be as successful because people or users of iOS are very used to using the App Store to download apps, and it's very unlikely that they are going to just lose their users because everybody started to download outside of the App Store, right? So I do think that the App Store power is still going to be there, and it's not going to just disappear overnight. And the next thing is about Apple Watch. Okay, so Apple Watch is also being sued, or Apple is being sued by another company that came out with this oxygen sensor. Okay, so there are two models of the Apple Watch that have this oxygen sensor, and that cannot be allowed anymore if Apple wants to continue to sell these watches. So they need to remove these features. And I would say that those people who are really interested in this feature, I personally don't know how useful it is, right? Because I don't really use an Apple Watch in that case. And of course, the ambition of Apple is to really build a very comprehensive or holistic health monitoring kind of devices that can bring in those health conscious consumers into the ecosystem. Right? So this is a big thing or a big direction that Apple is trying to go. So this removal of this oxygen sensor definitely is a dent to their ambition, but it's not totally off, right? Because there are still a lot of other fitness or health features that Apple Watch still available for users to use. I just don't know how much the impact is going to be for this oxygen sensor. I don't know how many people like this feature and buy the watch because of this feature, right? So only time will tell for this instance. And next is the iPhone, right? So we have App Store impacted, Apple Watch impacted, now we have iPhones in plus other devices that is mostly in China, right? Because in China, last year Huawei came out with a new model, the Mate series new model, and it was very successful. It managed to capture the demand from Apple, right? Still some demand from Apple, and Apple iPhone 15 didn't do as well in China last year as compared to iPhone 14 during the launch, right? So Apple now is resorting to price wars, right? Slashing the prices of iPhones as well as other devices in order to boost sales in China and in order to compete against Huawei. Right, this is not a good sign because Apple is not known for discounts. Okay, Apple refuses to give discount because they are known as a premium brand and they can charge premium prices because of their brand prowess. So hence, cutting prices is a dent to the image as well. And we don't know how much more you can cut, or how much more whether Apple is willing to cut in terms of this price war going on in China. But this also shows that China is one of the biggest market for Apple, is also getting impacted by competition, right? So you can see that Apple is facing all sorts of issues with all their devices and services, demand for it, and it is not looking good for them so far. And this is their FY 2023 results, and we can see that all their devices actually saw a revenue decline from a year ago, and only their services went up by 9%, right? But even now the App Store is a bit shaky due to all the new rulings that may be coming out that impose on Apple to change, and overall their revenue dipped about 3% in 2023, right? So the results have showing that the impact is already there. And this is the unbelievable thing, because even despite Apple's very lackluster results, financial results, Apple's share price still went up 49% in 2023. Okay, so I guess you see that Apple is probably the only company can get away with it, right? No other companies, I believe that if you show this kind of result, your share price can still go up 49%. If you don't go down, I think it's already a very good thing, right? But somehow Apple is able to get away with it and still go up 49% in 2023. So with that, actually seeing some weakness in Apple share price is warranted, because simply 2023 the share price went up so much, and it has hit $3 trillion, the very first company to do so. And this is another thing that I wanted to share, is that Apple has hit $3 trillion mark, right? Of course, it went through 1 trillion and 2 trillion along the way. And they did the first trillion in around 2018. Okay, so another phenomenon that I realized is that there is something like, once you hit the milestone, you start to come back down. It's just like there's nothing for investors to look forward to, because if let's say Apple is very near $1 trillion mark, right? So a lot of investors will say, yeah, maybe it can hit $1 trillion. They want to support, they buy, and then eventually it hit $1 trillion mark, they will start to sell, because it is like a milestone that has been achieved, and it will take a long while to hit 2 trillion. So some of the traders or investors will start to sell the stock, and that caused the stock to do a correction. And we saw that when Apple first hit $1 trillion in 2018, and subsequently they regained that $1 trillion mark again, was in 2019. It also went through a smaller correction. When it hit 2 trillion, the share price also corrected. Likewise, when it hit 2 trillion again, market did a pullback. And likewise, when it hit $3 trillion last year in June 2023, the share price came down about 15% from the point that they hit that $3 trillion mark. And in end December last year, when Apple also hit $3 trillion again, then we saw the share price dip once more. But all in all, if you can see, the share price have been steadily going up over the last decade or the last 5 years, right? So Apple has actually cleared triple trillion dollar mark in the past 5 years. That is pretty phenomenal. So I do believe that Apple will still have that upside potential. I don't think it's time to write off Apple yet, although they do have some issues that they need to resolve at this point in time, or at least in the short near future. And this is the largest stock by year. Okay, I wanted to see, who were the companies that were dominating the markets. And in the first 2000 to 2009, right, year 2000 to 2009, we can see that actually General Electric was the one that dominated the market. And Microsoft had a few, actually 2 years, in 2000 and 2003, Microsoft was the largest. There were some years the big oil came about, ExxonMobil, PetroChina, which is a Chinese company, and Saudi Aramco was in 2020, right? Other than that, most of the time in the last 10 years, it has always been Apple that is dominating the largest stock in the world. And Microsoft did have a brief spell in 2019, and now 2024, we also see Microsoft has overtaken Apple as well. But we don't know how long it will last, right? You can see it's like a Game of Thrones. It can change. There's some persistence, like GE and Apple has been persistent for each of their decades. And just that from 2020 onwards, we don't know whether there's a new player, right? You can let me know, okay, in the comments below, what do you think about this, right? Will Apple be dethroned permanently from now on for this from 2020 to 2030 decade? Okay, so interesting to know what your views are. And so in summary, I believe that indeed Apple is facing many problems and is coming from all directions, impacting every single device and service that Apple is having, right? So this is not an easy issue to resolve, plus all the geopolitical tension, plus all the rewiring of the supply chain. So Apple does have the work cut out for them in order for them to overcome all these challenges. And the second thing is that I believe the short-term price correction is warranted. We saw that every time you hit a 3 trillion or a new $1 trillion mark, the share price will recover, will correct or pull back. Right? So we are experiencing that as well. And also last year, the share price for Apple has gone up almost 50%. It's time to do some correction, some pullback to make it more sustainable, right? Because share price cannot go up in a straight line. It cannot go up forever. So periodic pullback, periodical correction is necessary for a healthy trend to establish. So I believe that in the short term, Apple share price may not be as bullish. And lastly, over a more longer term outlook, I do believe that Apple's branding continue to be very strong. Likely today is still one of the strongest brands in the world. People still queue up likely for iPhone 16, iPhone 17 overnight. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. And hence, with this strong branding, they should be able to wade through all these challenges. They have a good team, they have good management, they have good CEO, Tim Cook. So they should be able to resolve all these issues in time to come. So don't write off Apple yet, right? So, but it is indeed true that they're facing many issues at the moment. So thank you for watching. Please give me a thumbs up. Leave the comments below. What do you think? Will Apple lose the throne to another company for the next 5 years or so? Right, I'll be interested to hear it. And also remember to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.